It is a rainy night here in Vancouver. There are police sirens wailing outside, and I'm watching the Canucks play the Rangers. My mind, my eyes, my brain, it was all focused on this game. So the first time I picked up my smartphone and I looked throughout Twitter, tried to see what was going on, I was greeted with this. What a huge trade. This is the biggest trade we have seen in weeks, months maybe even. The Philadelphia Flyers have traded Cutter Gauthier to the Anaheim Ducks for Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick in 2025. My goodness, man. This is a really simple trade, but it's one that's really, really big because both of these assets, Cutter Gauthier and Jamie Drysdale, are young, they're talented, they've got a lot of potential, and I think if they pan out to the best of their abilities, they could both be superstars. You're seeing all the tweets here, both the Flyers and the Ducks going out there and talking about this trade. Part of the reason that this went down, though, may shock you, because a lot of y'all might be thinking, wait a minute, Cutter Gauthier? Like, the guy who was just named as one of the best players at the World Juniors? He went out there with 12 points in 7 games played. We talked about him just the other day in the controversy with Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Vancouver Canucks prospect. But Cutter Gauthier has been a stud in the NCAA. 37 points, 32 games last year, 23 points, 17 games this year with Boston College. Why would the Philadelphia Flyers try to trade away a big power forward sniper who can just drive to the net, who had a really good playmaking edge in this year's World Juniors, and who just did not stop being amazing? He was the best forward on the entire tournament. He was on the All-Star team. He had the gold medal, top 3 player on the team, most assists in the tournament. Cutter Gauthier was great. Why did they trade him? Well, it's because apparently he didn't want to stay. Take a look at this. Sources say that Cutter Gauthier informed the Flyers that he did not want to play in Philadelphia, and thus he would not sign. This was a big deal back at the beginning of the year. We saw a lot of Flyers fans kind of freaking out a little bit, asking, okay, he's not signing. Why? Why is he not signing? Why is he refusing to play in a pro hockey role this season? And we actually did make a video talking about Cutter Gauthier, and we concluded that said, hey, this is actually fine. Like, having another year to dominate the NCAA is not the worst thing in the world. There's nothing really being lost here. It's not like the Flyers are going to be quote-unquote too competitive anyway. That was before the Flyers started to win games and actually became competitive. They're really good this year. But Cutter Gauthier apparently did not want to be a part of this organization, and Darren Dreger went out there and said this: GM Danny Briere has been working on this trade for months. Gauthier wouldn't sign or talk with the Flyers, so they felt it was best to move on now. And I'll say this, if your prospect is not even talking to you guys, he's not returning your calls, he's not getting back to you, trade this guy immediately. If he does not want to be a part of your organization, you can just say sayonara and leave him alone. That's what he wanted. So Danny Briere, good on him for not letting any of this leak. The fact that we're only learning about this stuff now, I mean, A, it either means that the insiders like Frank Saravalli or Darren Dreger weren't really in a position to leak this up until the trade. But secondly, it's because the Philadelphia Flyers probably did just tighten everything down, which is a good thing, right? You don't want to see teams leaking too much stuff out. But in return, they are getting themselves a very good defensive prospect in Jamie Drysdale. Do I even want to say defensive prospect? He's in the NHL right now. I had him on fantasy literally last week. 5 points, 10 games played for the Anaheim Ducks this season, on pace for about 26 points in 53 games played. He didn't sign on for a while, which is kind of where there was a big lack of commitment that people were talking about. Also, there were a little bit of recoveries that he needed to go through in order to start the season, but Drysdale, in his first full NHL season, had 32 points in 81 games played. Very, very good year for a guy who, at the time, was 19 years old. Drysdale's a good, solid defenseman. If you want to think about playing styles, you're kind of thinking maybe of a Quinn Hughes light, except Drysdale is right-handed, whereas Quinn is left. That's kind of the ceiling that I think a lot of people had in their minds for Drysdale once he was drafted in the 6th overall spot by Anaheim in 2020. He was a really highly rated prospect for a reason, dominating the OHL. So for Philadelphia, I mean, you guys are getting yourselves a really good offensive ad, and if you want to talk about filling the roles that some of these other guys in the past have had, you talk about the Gostisbeheres, you talk about the Tony DeAngelos. If Drysdale pans out to what he could become, this could be the player that you thought those other two could have been. You lost out on Ryan Ellis. That sucks. You kind of need to get a little bit more support there in building your D-core, and with a guy like Drysdale playing with Cam York, it could make for some very good combinations in the future. So good on Philadelphia for getting this guy, as well as getting the second-round pick. Honestly, like, when you think about it, Drysdale was a 6th overall pick, 2020 6th overall. Cutter Gauthier was a 5th overall pick 2 years later. So the fact that you were able to trade away the 6th overall guy for the 5th overall guy, as well as getting a second-round pick, or excuse me, it's the other way around. You downgraded by 1 spot in the draft over 2 years, but you got a second-round pick because of it. That's a pretty good transaction, I feel, from Philadelphia. And for Anaheim, the reason this makes sense for them is because Cutter Gauthier, being a big power forward-like guy, playing alongside of Mason McTavish and or Trevor Zegras, that is going to be such an amazing combination. And don't even get me started on what Leo Carlsson can do too. The fact is, this Anaheim Ducks squad might have even been able to move on from Jamie Drysdale, because you could very well say he wasn't the top young guy on defense anymore. That honor may belong to Pavel Mintyukov now, because he has been amazing. Not to mention Tristan Luneau, you also have Olin Zellweger. There are some fantastic young defensemen in the Anaheim Ducks system that once things get going, and once things really start to solidify themselves, you even have Jackson Lacombe in here as well. 35 games played. This young player is getting ice time. Maybe there's a world where Jamie Drysdale wasn't really needed on the Anaheim Ducks anymore, which is why they traded him away, and they're getting a power forward that can really help out their scoring into the long term. So, if you are an Anaheim Ducks fan, or if you're a Philadelphia Flyers fan, what are your thoughts on this trade right here? Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick in exchange for Cutter Gauthier. Huge news out of the NHL. I cannot recall a time a really good, talented young prospect like this was traded at the height of his value. We always talk about how guys are in a position to be good, but sometimes they don't really work out too well, and they get traded after their value declines. You talk about all the other failed experiments in the past, the Philip Zadinas of the world, the Vranas. I don't know why I'm only talking about Detroit players right now, but I guess there are some other ones. Vitaly Kravtsov, Olli Juolevi, a lot of guys that come to mind whose value tanked before eventually seeing them get sent out to other teams. Cutter Gauthier is in the prime of his prospect value right now. It's not going to get any higher unless if he goes out there and starts, scoring even more goals in the NCAA, then I guess it can go higher there. But after the World Juniors, there was so much hype for this guy. He was on top of the world. Flyers fans were excited, but then it's revealed that he did not want to stay. What a dagger of news for the Philadelphia Flyers, but you got Jamie Drysdale in exchange, so I think it's a pretty good consolation prize, all things considered. Flyers fans, Ducks fans, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Jamie Drysdale for Cutter Gauthier. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.